Okay, get it out of your system. You hate me, I have terrible taste in film, I should kill myself, my voice is gay, I'm gay, my review is gay, my channel is gay, my penis is small, comment, dislike, blah blah blah. You got it out of your system? Good, can I talk now? Okay, great, thanks. Age of Ultron isn't the worst movie I've ever seen. I've talked about much worse. Much worse! But I was shocked to find how similar this film was with other terrible movies like Man of Steel. There were many moments in this film I was like, what? Would I say this movie sucks? Yeah. See, sucked is a relative term. Suck doesn't mean a movie is really bad for a fact. The actual definition of suck is to draw into the mouth by contracting the muscles of the lip and mouth to make a partial vacuum. This basically means opinions aren't facts, I guess. Just cause I thought this movie sucked doesn't mean for a fact it's a bad movie. There are actually some good things about this movie. There's plenty of decent acting, nice special effects, good action and choreography. Technically speaking, this movie's pretty solid. But just like I can say I liked a bad movie like The Room, I can say I did not like a competent movie like Avengers Age of Ultron. That's cause this movie is so bleh. That's a good word for it. Bleh. They should put that quote on the poster. I thought this movie sucked, unlike a movie like Man of Steel, which not only sucked, but was a genuinely bad movie that didn't make any sense. The fact is, this movie is passable in terms of all the technical stuff, but that doesn't mean it was an enjoyable experience. It was basically the exact opposite. This is one of the most boring experiences I've had in a theater the entire year. Everyone who was associated with this movie played it so safe that we got this bleh movie. Nothing exciting, nothing enticing, nothing interesting, nothing dramatic. It was a series of scenes that connected somewhat, and then at the end of the movie, they were like, just wait until the next movie. That'll be the good one. I want Marvel to do well, and I want them to make good movies, cause I like watching good movies. But I'm not gonna make excuses. If they use all kinds of marketing tricks to get people to watch the movie, I'm gonna call them out on it. The title itself is a marketing gimmick. Age of Ultron. What Age of Ultron was there? He was around for 2 days and then they ripped his heart out. There was no Age of Ultron. I'm not a moron. I can't be the only one who doesn't fall for this shit. I feel like every critic who would rate this movie poorly doesn't even bother watching it, and everyone who does see these movies will like it no matter what, because they like Marvel. You know you're allowed to criticize something if you feel the filmmakers aren't doing their best.
As a director, I mean, I gotta commend you, because you not only directed this picture, but you're weaving, this story and these phases of Marvel, iterations. How do you pace that and not get distracted from the movie that you're on, trying to keep other reveals and stuff?
Well, you try to make it integral to the story that you're telling. You don't always succeed, but,
I guess that's another problem with the movie. I hesitate to use the word filmmaker. Filmmaker implies someone with a unique vision. Age of Ultron definitely isn't a movie made by a filmmaker. That's why it's so lackluster. Shiny, yes, but it felt like more of a product. I don't know how anyone could love a movie with such little substance. It's like eating Chinese food. It fills you up for like half an hour and then you're hungry again. If you honestly feel that everyone associated with this movie put 100% into making it, if you feel that the writers took risks and did things that you've never seen before and made you go wow over and over again, then good for you. But I think there's a small part of yourself that's saying, they might have not tried that hard in a few places. Like the whole movie, maybe. And then there's that part of you who wanted to love this movie no matter what. Try to shut that part of yourself down, and hear out the part of yourself who thought this movie had flaws. I'm sorry this intro is so long, but I'm really trying to explain myself, so that people don't click off this video within a minute. Changing someone's opinion is a very hard thing to do, and some people have already clicked off this video because they don't want to change their minds. Guess there's nothing you can do about that. So anyway, here are the Too much action, too much CGI, too much period. It's a bunch of shit. There's a bunch of heroes and there's a bunch of villains and I don't give a shit because there's just a bunch of fucking shit. There are 23 main characters in this movie and I can't keep up with anything that's happening. The plot is all over the place, and right when it starts to make sense, they introduce 5 more characters and mess the whole fucking thing up again. Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Nick Fury, Maria Hill, Thanos, The Vision, Jarvis, Quicksilver, War Machine, Ultron, Stellan Skarsgård, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Andy Serkis' character, Peggy, the Gatekeeper from Thor. Holy shit! How did they manage to fully flesh out each character and give them each an equal amount of screen time and something to do? Here's the answer: they didn't. They tried to give every character something to do, but they didn't. Let's go through every single character arc in this movie. Here's Captain America's arc. Nothing. Captain America did nothing the whole film, except kill robots. There's a short scene where he's like having a nightmare or something, because Scarlet Witch did something to him or something. He sees his old girlfriend, and that's it. Here's what Iron Man does. Iron Man creates Ultron. He then tries to destroy Ultron. There is no relationship with him and Pepper Potts in this movie, because she isn't in it.
So, no Pepper?
Well, Miss Potts has a company to run.
Yeah, she's off doing some business, sure. Thor does nothing this whole movie except create the Vision, which also does nothing in this whole movie. This is one of the only scenes in the movie where characters actually do things, beside kill robots. See, there's conflict here. And then Thor comes in, and he does some, like, I don't understand what he did.
I've had a vision. Unparalleled bullets stuck in all hope of life. Why did the dark is right that? Oh, it's not from the alien. Mighty Avengers cannot avoid 16
Jarvis is there to die, so that Ultron can be made. Quicksilver's also there just to die. Can we talk about Quicksilver for a second? For some reason, people think his character was good, and they thought his death was genuinely emotional. Why? This character is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is a terrible actor. He's the worst part of Kick-Ass, and of course he plays Kick-Ass. He's the worst part of the new Godzilla movie, and in pretty much every other movie I've seen him in, he's been pretty bad. In this movie, he's truly awful. Not only because of his bad Russian accent.
The first shell hits 2 floors below. It makes a hole in the floor. It's big.
Hello, my friends. It's FPS Russia again, and I've got something very nice today.
But because he does nothing to make his character even mildly interesting or likable. Elizabeth Olsen is trying really hard to give her character some depth, even though she has almost nothing to work with. Meanwhile, Aaron Taylor Johnson just does nothing but fumble around until he finally dies. For most of the movie, Quicksilver's just a bad guy, not a very threatening one at that. And then once Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch realize that Ultron wants to destroy the whole world and not just the Avengers, like, no shit, they go, I guess we'll work with the good guys then. And they reluctantly save the world. Then for the rest of the movie, Quicksilver runs around really fast and kills a few robots, and then comes his big death scene.
You didn't see that coming.
It doesn't even make any sense. Okay, so here comes one of Ultron's robots, and then Hawkeye is there. For no reason, he decides he wants to save people now. Underneath that tortured young man is a hero, and then instead of going to help his sister, which he has known his entire life, he decides to save Hawkeye and some random kid.
Didn't see that coming.
First of all, how are you even alive? He should be fucking hamburger meat on the floor, but for some reason he's just got a few bullet holes in him. Wait a second, the bullets went through him! That's some high caliber shit! The bullets would have went through him and then hit Hawkeye and the kid. Quicksilver would have done nothing. How are Hawkeye and the kid still alive? But I guess he's a hero now.
And as always, have a nice day.
There is no reason to like this character. The Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Future Past is a much better character, and he had less screen time than this guy.
They hate your boots because they wish they were in them.
And I'm not the only one who thinks this. Ask pretty much any person that's seen these two movies and they'll tell you the same thing.
Days of Future Past Quicksilver was alright, I guess. It was better than this guy.
My favorite Quicksilver is the one from Age of Ultron. Just kidding, he fucking sucked.
I was more attached to the Quicksilver in Days of Future Past because I got to see his personality more.
My favorite Quicksilver was the Quicksilver from X-Men. I feel that his character was pretty easy to connect to.
I personally enjoy the Quicksilver from Days of Future Past because every single scene with him felt like a roller coaster.
I was a fan of the Quicksilver from X-Men Days of Future Past because he wasn't this weird Russian guy with an obviously fake accent, and he had fun, and he stole a bunch of stuff, and he had the best scene in his movie.
I think I like the character in Days of Future Past because the character in Days of Future Past was actually a fucking character.
While this one was funny and had an interesting character, this one was just bland and boring.
What can you tell us about your character?
My power is that I'm as fast as the speed of sound.
I really wanted to like the version in Avengers Age of Ultron, but it kind of seemed like the movie constantly went out of its way to make me not give a shit. The character really doesn't do anything. He doesn't have any charisma or charm or any defining attributes. He kind of just talks funny and runs fast. That's his whole thing.
Quicksilver in Avengers didn't really feel like that. He felt like just a regular cliche comic book movie character.
I mean, when Quicksilver died in the movie, I was kind of all like...
Quicksilver was in Age of Ultron. He was just a weird Russian guy who had no motive and had no character development, and kind of ruined every scene he was in.
Quicksilver is a completely monotone and forgettable character, and if you really wanted to get down to the basics of it, I'd say he's the superhero equivalent of a boring saltine cracker.
And it just starts to beg the question, why couldn't they just, I don't know, copy this guy? I mean, yeah, everyone would start talking, like, you know, you can't copy that. This has been done. Who gives a fuck?
So now we're left with the characters that actually have some impact on the plot, and are actually given a decent amount of screen time. Those characters are Black Widow, Hawkeye, Hulk, Ultron, and Scarlet Witch. These are the only characters that actually have things going on. Not necessarily good things, but things nonetheless. Let's start out with Ultron. For some reason, everyone likes Ultron. I don't get it. I was horribly confused by his character. There was only one way this character would have worked, as an extremely cold, intimidating, threatening killing machine, like a Terminator or something.
I'll be back.
It doesn't feel, it doesn't crack jokes, it doesn't show emotion, it hardly even talks. Its only goal is to destroy humanity. That's what I thought Ultron was gonna be. That's what everyone wanted Ultron to be. But that would be too scary for the kids. Who would want an action figure of Ultron if he was just a big meanie head?
I am everywhere.
So instead they make Ultron like this sly, Tony Starkish, smartass robot.
I would have to break anything.
Clearly you've never made an omelet.
You beat me by 1 second.
They give him facial features. They give him human-like movement.
What? You think I'm one of Stark's puppets, his hollow men? Look at me. Do I look like Iron Man? Stark is... I'm sorry. I'm sure that's gonna be okay. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't understand. Don't compare me with Stark.
He shouldn't be able to feel anything. And I don't care how advanced Tony Stark's technology is. The Vision was created almost the exact same way, except Thor used like some super magical power or something to create the Vision, so he's like a hybrid of human and alien and robot. And even the Vision shows less emotion than this robot.
I can't physically throw up in my mouth.
This thing shouldn't be cracking jokes. It shouldn't be standing around. It shouldn't be like Loki. They were trying to make Ultron like Loki, because everyone liked Loki so much. But the thing is, Loki works so much better than Ultron. First of all, Loki is a real person. Now I know Ultron is played by a real person, but Loki was actually on screen. He had so much charisma, he brought so much to the table, and the CGI artists really tried hard to capture that with Ultron, but they couldn't. Because Ultron is a robot!
What?
Another reason Loki works better is because his jokes were actually funny. Nothing Ultron said the entire movie made me laugh. Same thing with the audience I was with. No one ever laughed at Ultron. We were left more confused. Because here we are watching the trailer, and we see this intimidating, giant hunk of metal talking about murdering humanity.
I'm gonna show you something beautiful. Everyone screaming for mercy. There are no
no strings on me.
Wait, guys! What?
Now, I don't want these movies to be super serious like The Dark Knight, but having a serious, intimidating villain to balance out all this other silly shit and comedy would have made this movie more interesting. Ultron is not a good villain. I never felt threatened by him, he never made me laugh, and he never even felt real. Ultron is just a special effect. Loki felt real and felt threatening because he was real. Maybe Ultron should have been more practical. They could have built an actual robot like they did with Terminator.
But basically the way this rig worked was John Rosengrant had this on his shoulders, so you got the nice pacing and all that kind of natural movement. It was basically the same rig that they used for Terminator 1, and I think they did in T2 also, but it was a backpack. And they were trying to see if they could figure out a way to frame up so that you would miss the puppeteer and just see the Terminator pushing Mr. Kyle Reese.
But no, Ultron needs to be CGI, so we can show the comedic side of him.
They put me in a suit, and they had me go through a range of motion, very specific motions and movements and so on, which they captured with all these sort of sensors all over me and reference cameras all around me.
No! And then they give Ultron like 1,000 robot henchmen. This is what I'm referring to when I say that this movie has too much shit in it. You know that term, less is more? They say it a lot because it's true. Having 25 characters fight 1,000 robots is not entertaining anymore. It's sensory overload. You know none of these characters are gonna die unless it's extremely telegraphed and obvious, and you feel no impact when the heroes actually kill a robot because they're killing a robot. A reason I love Winter Soldier is because Captain America murders people in it. He does it for the greater good. They don't try to make him a pussy that only murders like robots and aliens. You can feel the gravity of a situation when people are actually dying. There is none of that in Age of Ultron, because every single foe they defeat in the entire movie is a robot. They even kill Ultron 10 times. The movie as a result just feels overcrowded and messy. Just look at the poster. It's overcrowded as shit. Look at the first Avengers poster. Now look at this one. There's so much shit they can't even fit it on one poster. Anyway, let's move on to our next two characters. The Hulk and Black Widow love story.
And then he'll wait just long enough to see his good work. And when he screams, I'll split his skull.
You're a monster.
All of a sudden, Black Widow falls in love with the Hulk. And every scene between these two characters is incredibly awkward, because this was never set up at all. There's a scene in the beginning where the Hulk is with Black Widow, and Black Widow calms him down a little. I guess this is a bonding moment between these two, and this makes Black Widow fall in love with the Hulk for some reason. But we never see these characters actually connect with each other, aside from these quick scenes where she's calming the Hulk down. We never actually see them connect on a human level. They like each other because the script says so. And don't even start with this scene. This scene is so fucking weird.
Didn't realize you were waiting.
I would have joined you, but it didn't seem like the right time.
They used up all the hot water.
I should have joined you.
Missed our window.
Did we?
Now we get to Hawkeye, which is the best character in this movie by far, because he knows how stupid this movie is.
Okay, look, the city's flying. We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
That's the kind of stuff I wanted to see in this movie all the time. So why is Hawkeye such a likable character? Because every scene with him is great. All of his dialogue is perfect. Jeremy Renner actually cares about this character and is trying to develop him the best he can. He's funny, and I think the most important thing of all, he has an ending. I don't know for sure, but this is probably the last movie with Hawkeye in it. So they actually give him a satisfactory conclusion. Everything feels tied up in a neat bow with his character. I felt satisfied, which is how I should feel about everything at the end of a movie, but I didn't, because the rest of these characters are going to be in 10 other movies. So I know they're not going to die, and I know I'm not going to be satisfied at the end of their stories because they want me to watch 5 other movies before they get to their conclusion. Wait a second, didn't Iron Man retire? Did they even mention that in this movie? I don't think so. And then at the end of the movie, he retires again? So would he come out of retirement for like a few days and then go back? So why put so much shit into a movie, you ask? Is it to sell toys? Most likely, but more importantly, it's to sell other movies. The more characters you introduce, the more characters we can put in other Avengers movies, and plus we can make like spin-offs off of it, because these characters are genuinely interesting. I genuinely mean this. Genuinely Quicksilver is a genuinely interesting character. He's very genuine. Less is more. It's the reason they make candy small. Hershey's Kisses, gummy bears, M&Ms. This is something that every candy manufacturer knows. That if you give the customer too much candy, they'll start to hate it. Not only does it save the manufacturer money, it makes eating the candy a more enjoyable experience for you. This is what the Avengers 2 is. It's a giant fucking candy bar. It's just too much! Sound. Don't say this is nitpicking. Sound, and especially music, is very important. Actually, it might be the most important thing about a movie. It doesn't matter what amazing visuals are going on. If it sounds like this...
He got arrested for hijacking a car, stealing stuff from the store.
It sucks. This is a mistake many first-time filmmakers make. Luckily, Joss Whedon was able to solve this problem with the use of some state-of-the-art technology. A microphone. Good call, Joss. So the movie gets that right. However, the last Avengers movie also used microphones. Therefore, it's not as impressive. It's not even like Joss Whedon invented the technology. James Cameron introduced the use of the microphone in his 2009 film Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is why Avatar has been hailed as one of the most groundbreaking films of all time. It was the first movie to use microphones. Anyway, once that is done, sound effects are added. Avengers does this pretty well. Planes sound like planes, cars sound like cars. When people walk, you hear footsteps. So I guess that's okay. However, the sound design isn't stellar. Believe it or not, sound design is expensive, time-consuming, and rather difficult. You can either A, buy sound effects from companies that specialize in sound design, or B, make sound effects yourself. Regardless, it's a pain in the ass.
So I'm just checking this out, and these are these patented horse hoof things here. And then I'll punch for that grass, nurses. Okay. Keep going, keep going. And he goes by camera. Cool. Okay.
And movies try to cheat sometimes by adding music. This is where music starts to come into play. Music can not only emotionally move an audience, it can hide mistakes in sound design. Sometimes it replaces sound entirely. I'm guilty of this. Designing scenes of quiet with no music is really difficult. That simple clip alone had 20 different sound effects going on all at the same time. Fight scenes are even harder. So imagine doing the sound design for these scenes. Messing up even a little bit can make a scene sound empty. And this is why a lot of movies add music where you don't really need music. However, in most movies, they make the music decent.
With no survivors!
Avengers 2, they just decided to make the music like there, and it literally sounds like free stock music you find on YouTube. Holy shit. The soundtrack was composed by Brian Taylor and Danny Elfman. First, let's talk about Brian Taylor. I don't know who the hell this guy is. It took me like a half hour to find him on IMDb, and then I looked at his track record, and as you can imagine, it's impressive. War, Alien vs. Predator Requiem, Bangkok Dangerous with Nicolas Cage, Eagle Eye, The Lazarus Project, Expendables, Fast 5, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Final Destination 5, The Expendables 2, Iron Man 3, Now You See Me, Transformers Prime, the TV show, Thor the Dark World, The Expendables 3, Into the Storm, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How the fuck does this guy get work?
He's incredibly experienced and done so many good scores.
The other composer is Danny Elfman, and Danny Elfman is actually pretty famous. IMDb says he's in the top 5,000. Wow. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't composed some good soundtracks, because he has. He did like the Spider-Man movies, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Batman, Mission Impossible, but recently he's been slipping. He did the music for Nacho Libre, Charlotte's Web, Men in Black 3, Terminator, Salvation, Frankenweenie, 50 Shades of Grey, and most recently, Goosebumps. So he's kind of on a downward slope, and Avengers Age of Ultron has been added to his list of generic shitty compositions. There's something about good music that makes a movie so much better. Gets you energized, gets you into it. And you stop thinking that you're watching a movie, and you just become a part of it.
I need the algorithm.
Give each girl a base rating of 1400. At any given time, girl A has a rating RA and girl B has a rating RB.
When any two girls are matched up, there's an expectation of which will win based on their current rating, right?
Yeah. And those expectations are expressed this way.
This soundtrack sucks!
The dining room. If I knock out that east wall, make a nice workspace for Laura, huh? Put up some baffling. She can't hear the kids running around. What do you think?
You guys always eat in the kitchen anyway.
No one eats in a dining room.
Now, could this movie have been good with a kind of shitty soundtrack? Yeah, but this is just another thing in a long list of things that this movie gets kind of wrong. Not because it's like the worst fucking soundtrack on the face of the earth. It's not the Amazing Spider-Man 2 soundtrack. But once again, it's thrown together, rushed, and generic. Just like everything else in this movie. What am I supposed to like about this movie again?
High-tech design is what Tony Stark is all about. So he's gonna drive a car that reflects that.
We're doing a lot of work in post. We'll be doing some CG work to make sure that we have the most up-to-date, newest Audi.
There are some features that are coming. I said, well, they won't be there when you're filming. And he's like, well, neither will the Hulk. We'll figure it out.
All the great-looking cars, all the great-looking heroes, all kind of together. It makes sense. You know, it's too...
This is pathetic.
Who cares if anything makes sense?
This quadrant is unsafe. Please back away. Please back away.
Why are they speaking English if they're in Russia? They should be programmed to speak Russian. We're about 3 minutes into the movie and I'm already asking questions. Then they start introducing more characters. What's Scarlet Witch's power? She can do like anything for some reason.
Her thing is neuroelectric interfacing, telekinesis, mental manipulation. He's fast and she's weird.
Okay. She moves fast, she can control people, then sometimes she can make them hallucinate, then she can move objects telepathically, she reads minds too, and she could read a robot's mind, cause...
He's dreaming.
I wouldn't call it dreams. It's Ultron's base consciousness.
Okay.
We took her power and said, okay, she's got telekinesis, she can move things, she can have a little bit of energy, kind of shielding or pushing, and she can get inside your head and tweak it so that all your worst fear is gonna come to the fore.
What is this now? What the fuck am I watching? I bet you the only reason this is in here is so they could put it in the trailer. And they did. That's all it really comes down to, huh? Marketing. If it says Avengers on it, we know it's gonna make money, so who really cares what the plot is? Put Ultron in the title, show a few of the Avengers in the trailer, show some new people, take dramatic lines from the movie and put them in the trailer out of context.
Nothing lasts forever.
I got a great team.
Nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever.
And there you go. And the more odd, like, stupid aspects of the movie they don't show in the trailer. Like the Black Widow and Hulk love triangle, which is just weird. And Mark Ruffalo looks like he's CGI in this shot. I don't know what's going on. Then like computers fight in the movie and they literally have to fight. Ultron literally shoots lasers at Jarvis. I'm not nitpicking, the whole movie is filled with this shit. Scene after scene of nonsense meant to draw out this boring story that we've seen a million times. Now the movie does have some good scenes, but those scenes are kind of pointless. But yet those are the scenes people actually want to see. Scenes like this.
Are you even pulling? Are you on my team? Just represent, pull!
This is where the movie was entertaining. Just watching a group of superheroes fuck around for a little while. I don't care about the Infinity Gauntlet or the love story or plan to take over the gemstones. I want to have fun, laugh for a little while, but we don't have time for those scenes. We need scenes like this.
Down in Strucker's lab, I saw some fairly advanced robotics work.
Why does your vision sound like Jarvis?
He's got increased metabolism and improved thermal homeostasis.
They deep-sixed the data, but I gotta guess he was knocking on a very particular door. Reconfigured Jarvis's matrix. I get it, Maria Hill called you, right?
Did you know then what was gonna happen? Why send a message when you've just given a speech?
Strucker knew something that Ultron wanted us to miss.
You never even hesitated.
This could have been avoided if you hadn't played with something you don't understand.
Sorry.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
What did he do that was so wrong to you?
What?
This movie needed more scenes of people like, actually scenes of people. We needed scenes where people actually communicate with one another and develop their characters in interesting ways. Not this.
They sterilize you.
Why does anyone say this movie's smart? That it's well written? Because it has 3 scenes that are okay? Why is Black Widow a bartender, huh? She's a guest at this party too. She's a strong woman. She shouldn't be serving drinks to other men. She should be in the kitchen making sandwiches.
This program is brought to you in part by...
We now return you to your regularly scheduled...
The audience. It's odd to judge a movie solely based on the audience that wants to watch it, but that's exactly what I'm doing. Gone are the days where Marvel took risks and made decisions that a majority of people may not necessarily agree with. Like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Let's talk about that for a second. The fact that the Mandarin in Iron Man 3 is actually an actor, and the real Mandarin is Guy Pearce is a fun twist. It's something unexpected, something different. And of course, everyone went ballistic! For some reason, it's thought of as one of the worst twists in film history. Like, it's up there with the Remember Me twist ending. Really? It's much more thought out and clever than people give it credit for. But people don't want things they don't expect. They want to know everything that happens in a movie. It has to be accurate to the comic book. If the movie does anything different from the comic, then the movie sucks. According to rabid fanboys, alterations to any comic book story is not welcome because they want to feel safe walking into a film. Fortunately, real filmmakers and storytellers don't pay these people any thought. They go, oh, you don't like that? Well, this is my story, so fuck you. However, this isn't the best way to make money. When they greenlit this movie, they said, if you want to make lots of money, then you have to please as many people as possible. The more risks you take, the less money you make. So what was Marvel Studios thinking when they greenlit this movie? Play it safe. Playing it safe means you make a shit ton of money. So is there any one subplot in this movie that's so awful it makes me want to vomit? No, but there is no subplot in this movie that's genuinely compelling, innovative, or exciting. That's because Marvel played it safe. There is nothing in this movie that is even mildly shocking or unexpected because it's so familiar and bland. I'm not saying this movie has to be The Dark Knight, but does every twist and turn have to be so bleh? Did you people honestly expect Quicksilver not to die? He is the most boring character in the whole movie and we barely know him. If Iron Man had died, that'd be great. We'd all be going like, holy shit, Iron Man died. But then people might be upset and then we won't make money. We want kids to buy the movie on Blu-ray. Don't kill anyone except the generic Russian guy. To Marvel, a bunch of people going, the movie is okay, is better than a small demographic of people going, wow, this movie was great. They have to appeal to as many people as possible. Let's look at the demographics. Comic book fans. How do you appeal to them? Show familiar images from the comic books. Show familiar characters from the comic books. Throw in little Easter eggs for them. so that they feel important. Okay, they're taken care of. Next is families. The movie can't be too violent, otherwise families won't go see it.
Cool.
Cool, and what do you think?
Awesome.
There are actually parents that look up this stuff before they see the movie. Sex, nudity, violence, gore, profanity, alcohol, drugs, smoking, frightening and intense images. If a movie has any of those things, families won't see it. So there's no sex and nudity in the film. 5 uses of ass, 1 use of shit, 3 uses of damn, 2 uses of hell, 1 use each of pissed off, son of a bitch, dick, and bastard. There's a comedic scene of someone drinking alcohol. All of the characters get a little bit tipsy later on. The film has a slightly dark and ominous tone, but good humor keeps it light, and it's not focused too much on these parts. The only real problem is the violence. We can't show too many people actually dying. So instead, let's make them fight robots. Next demographic, teenagers. Teenagers like action. Okay, we got them covered.
Pretty schwanky or awesome.
Now what about women? They make up half the population. And we really want their money. I mean, we want to entertain them. So how do we get them in the theater? Easy, put hot guys in it. Now, I'm aware that there are women out there that aren't this shallow. Like, they won't just see a movie because a bunch of hot men are in it. I'm completely aware of that. And if you are that kind of woman, good for you. Unfortunately, most of the population of... So if Chris Hemsworth is in a movie, they'll go see it because Chris Hemsworth is hot. Literally no other reason.
Will Thor be there?
The audience needs to be identifiable, accessible, substantial, and durable. So there are audiences out there that like more quiet movies, more character-driven movies. Movies that actually have a story that's interesting. But those audiences aren't as accessible or substantial. So fuck you! The definition of insanity.
Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy.
This is the same exact movie. Not only as the last Avengers, but as every Marvel movie.
You take a half-forgotten B-list superhero, cast an unknown or half-forgotten B-list actor, have him fight a generic villain that will only last 1 movie, fall in love with a generically strong female character, make a ton of quips, talk a bunch of science, destroy some public property, cram Stan Lee in there somewhere, have a blue beam shoot up in the sky, set up an Avengers movie, and force the audience to sit through 500 visual effects guys' names just to catch a few extra seconds.
What astounds me is that despite everyone knowing this formula, they still do the exact same thing. Now, these movies usually make up for it by being entertaining. But in a movie like this, where nothing is entertaining, aside from like 3 other scenes, all that's left to focus your attention on is the plot. And we all know the plot already. We've been witnessing the same thing for years, and I pray to God that they change something, because I'm starting to suffer from fatigue, and I think everyone else is too. We know the whole movie before the movie even comes out. Now again, they do this because of marketing, because God forbid the audience wants to see something different. But at this point, like, people will go see these movies no matter what, so why don't you change some things? Well, there's a very specific reason for that. Set up more movies. Every movie now exists to set up other movies. We've gotten to the point where they're not even making movies anymore. They're making commercials for other movies. And those movies will be commercials for other movies. Like I said before, I know all these characters are gonna live, not only because this story is very predictable, because I know there's gonna be 2 more Hulk movies after this. There's gonna be 5 more Thor movies after this. There's gonna be 8 more Captain America movies after this. Avengers 3 Part 1, Avengers 3 Part 2. We're watching a series of setups for other setups. Setup after setup. I'm fed up with these setups. And I feel set up. Written and directed by the studio. Like I said before, this is just a giant commercial for other commercials. The actors want to tell a compelling story. Joss Whedon wants to tell a compelling story. I don't doubt that. But then all these slimy producers come in and they try to force in all this shit to sell other movies, to sell toys, to sell video games.
I'm living vibranium. Ultron, you're just a cheap copy.
They're piling one thing on top of another, and all they do is they keep adding and adding and adding. They are overpopulating this universe with nonsense, and sooner or later it's gonna give out and the whole thing is gonna fall apart. We are on the verge of collapse with this universe. Joss Whedon probably has a lot of the same problems with this movie as I do. And his original cut of the movie was probably much better than the shit we got now. But the studio trimmed this movie down. For all I know, Joss Whedon didn't even direct some of these shitty scenes I'm talking about. Most of these scenes, especially the dialogue scenes, feel like they were filmed by like a second unit. It's sad knowing that all the creative people involved with this movie wanted to make a good movie, but not only did they fail at making a good movie, they failed at making a movie. I've said this before, but I don't review bad movies. I review products. When I pan a movie this hard, it's not because I think it's a bad movie. It's because it fails to even be a movie. And while this movie is competent, I didn't feel like I was watching a movie.
The first one was here. The new one is way up here.
Has everyone lost their minds? Do people like this? Or is it that our expectations are so low, we'll take anything we can get? I remember the superhero movies of my childhood. They were great. I remember when I sat down in the theater with my friends, and we eagerly awaited for the movie to start. And then we laughed, and we cried. We stayed for the after credits. And we laughed our balls off when Howard the Duck showed up. And then I saw Avengers 2. And everyone sat down. And then the movie started. And then the movie ended. And we went home. And that was it. Sometimes you don't even need a reason to hate a movie. Because that's a feeling I can't explain. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the fact that I've grown up. But I like to stay optimistic. And I think one day when the Marvel Cinematic Universe falls apart, and everyone starts to hate these movies, Marvel will try something new. Maybe they'll stop being blinded by the money, and see that all I really wanted in the first place was a good movie.